welcome to today's episode. We are back with some more on the spiritual side of things. Today we're going to be going extra woo-woo and we're going to be talking about shamanic practice and what a shaman is and how we are now in a place where we're going to start bringing these things into modern society. So when I left you last time, I had just had my mega spiritual experience off the back of a lifetime of spiritual development by accident. I'd been to Peru, I'd had my spooky experience up at the top of Mount Veronica, and I had come back down completely renewed and completely rewired and with a new framework and a new space to move into. So I'd completed that particular baddie at the end of that level and I'd unlocked some new characters and a new space to move into. So I was leveling up. And I came back to Wales and I still had my old life. I still was in the fashion industry, had all that going on. I had the salon, which was now becoming really epically stressful to deal with. I had the kids that were growing up. It was just such a strain. Financial stuff. Oh my God, financial blocks are the biggest thing for me. Still working on them. That's another episode. Loads of stuff going on. Really, really stressful, really difficult. So what happened next was I'd sat with myself a little bit and thought, right, you know what you're meant to do. You know you're meant to be connecting in, and you're meant to be connecting in with your spiritual side. That's what the learning here is. That is what's been missing, and you've been ignoring this stuff. So you need to start developing those skills. So off I went on a little journey of self-exploration at this point, and I started to look at researching, and I bought loads of books, right? In fact, on my bookshelf here, tons of books from like Divine Matrix, Power versus Force, Sapiens, traditional stuff around psychology, neuroscience, human behaviour, quantum physics, non-linear dynamics, all the different spiritual disciplines. I've got a massive book on Madame Blavatsky and her journeys into the occult, and it's a huge, massive thing. Lots and lots and lots of different reading materials and really absorbing everything. I came back, my brain just, I don't know what happened, but I was like a sponge, and concepts that previously I couldn't wrap my head around or didn't have an interest in, like science, for example, just that unlocked, something opened up and I was like a sponge, right? Couldn't get enough of it. So around that time, obviously I was flipping between worlds, between spaces. I had this, what I'd built, the fashion and everything else in the salons, and I had this space that I knew I was meant to move into. And I was using that to do it. So we were having lots of editorial photo shoots, the shows. It was still around fashion, but I was changing the narrative to be more about diversity and inclusion and celebrating every body style, every body shape, every kind of music, every kind of fashion, every opinion, and I was trying to kind of go into that space. And at the time, it was a bit like, I always say it's like The Greatest Showman meets School of Rock. That was the vibe and the influence, and that's what I wanted. And now everybody says, oh, you took your influence from The Greatest Showman, because we had a lot of circus themed stuff and I used to wear a top hat, and it's like, check the dates, mate, because I think you'll find that they were inspired by us, because it was a couple of years before The Greatest Showman, a few years before actually, that we started our little journey. And that was the aesthetic, and the vibe was very, this is me. So very cool. And so all that was happening at the same time, and I was shifting over, and I was then having new experiences because I was starting to use my profile and my delivery method and how I engage and my industry, because everybody wanted it. It was exciting, it was interesting. And I was now learning to coach. So I was doing my training in coaching and NLP, CBT, all the acronyms. I was learning to be a kinetic shift practitioner, bringing in visualization with NLP and CBT, shifting people's energy, understanding emotion. So all this was going on in the background. And I'm thinking, I can use this, and I can use my old experiences and my methods and my industry to bring this into awareness and to help people. So I started working with lots of different groups. So all kinds of amazing people. And once we started to do this work, people would light up and go, oh, this is really good. This is impactful. Can you come to my school? Or do you work with schools, with businesses, with families? When is your next one? I want to bring my kids. I want to bring my mum. And, this experience I just had as an audience member, I just came in off the street and I saw a piece about suicide and male mental health and body image. And I want to speak to somebody. I've been going through this for 20 years. I never told anyone. And you just made me realise and open something up that I'm not on my own. Where do I go next? So all this stuff was coming at me, and I thought, well, this is definitely lining up. It's definitely the space I'm supposed to move in. But I can't help all these people individually. I don't know. I just do fashion shows, mate. I don't know. I can't can't do anything to help. So I'd be signposting people, your GP, you go get your doctor, Done that, didn't work. Or I'm on a waiting list, I've been on a waiting list for 5 years. So I started to realise very quickly that actually the support that people needed wasn't there and didn't exist. So that left me with a bit of a conundrum, because I thought, well, I know I'm meant to be doing this. I know I'm supposed to be, that's my little part to play in this shift is in this area. But is it ethical? Can I be popping the lids off things? Because using music, performance, visual stuff, engagement, fashion, media is the way in. It's how you unlock things. So if we use that and then we start to pop the lids off things that really make people feel and experience things and acknowledge stuff, is that ethical when there's nothing else then? Just pop lids off and let people go and be traumatized. So I had to wrestle with that a little bit and work out what to do. And that's one of the reasons that I personally started to gain skills and training in coaching and trying to support people in any way I could with the knowledge and the skills to do that. So I had that sort of ethical framework in place. And then obviously, because I'm a massive, huge people pleaser and I'm still operating from my trauma drive, more and more people come to me for things and I'm going, yeah, I'll help everybody, I'll heal the world, yes, whatever you need. So my burnout radars start flashing. And I've been here before, right? Don't forget, in my 20s, I burnt out and been in hospital. I don't want to do that again. So as soon as, I'm getting better, I'm learning, as soon as the red flags start to come up, I start to realise, okay, my soul knows this is the right, I know I'm in the right place, I'm aligned up. However, I've learned to listen to my body. My body is telling me no. What do I do about that? Because that's a bit of a tricky one. So this last 10 years has been a period of great learning and development where I've moved into different spaces and I've developed different programs, different events, different ways for people to storytell, different ways to support people. And I've learned as I've gone, and I've tried to keep that connection between soul and spirit and what I'm meant to do in my guidance, using all my creepy skills, and what my body's telling me. And it's been an interesting one, it really has, because I have flipped over my own professional boundaries a million times, and quite severely, knowing that I'm really pushing things, but nobody else is going to. So I need to be able to balance that kind of risk with doing things the right way. And it's really tough when you're walking that line. And I know a lot of you out there are the same, because I have so many conversations with people who are, really resonating. So, and the whole point of this is that it's brought me back again to soul, to spirituality, to lining up the right way, because then if you take the time and you make sure that you fill yourself up, that you practice self-care, that you pause, that you reflect, that you don't get so caught up in the trauma drive bit that feels like it's your soul and it's the right thing, that you don't see where you're kind of going off piste a little bit and where you're moving off the track. You can keep yourself centered and you can fall back into that. And that's where I'm at now. And I'm sure I've got loads of learning to go. And I'm sure I'll look back on this when I have the next end of level baddie and I'm ready to level up and I experience something that's challenging. I look back at this video and go, oh, you thought you knew it all, but you didn't. But I'm aware of that. I know that. I'm going to share the wisdom that I have now with you based on my experiences, because this is very current. So for me, it's about really bringing it back to total, authentic, soul-purposed direction, and not distracting, and not slipping back into trauma drive, and not putting the mask on and saying, well, I'll do that bit because that's what people want of me, and then in the background I'll work on this bit. Because that, it worked for a time, or I thought it was working for a time, but that's not right either, because that gets me into these situations where I'm just heading back into trauma drive and getting into sticky situations where I'm not quite aligned. So by sharing and by getting into this space where everything is completely lit up and soul aligned, and recognizing that not everyone is going to understand or resonate, and people might move into different spaces, and that's okay. New people might come in, that's okay as well. So this is why, this new phase of my life is appearing now, where I'm really doing the podcast and the Substack and the digital online learning platform, and I'm moving away from the fray and then the frontline stuff, and I'm providing a lot of digital content and doing the work, right? Doing the shadow work, doing the inner work, so that I can continually keep showing up as the current authentic version of myself and share that wisdom, because that is definitely my path. So the shaman, I went too close then. So the shaman, this is what we're going to be discussing, and that's what happened when I came back. It was, what's a shaman? 90s dance band. Somebody who lives in the jungle that has skulls that they rattle around, and I had no frame of reference whatsoever. So part of my research and development was in this. And I thought, right, this lights up completely. This is what is for me. And I learnt that indigenous tribes all over the world, right, are shamanic tribes. Right? So the language for me was completely not what I expected. So for me, when we were talking about religion last time and not really fitting in with anything, I learned that there is a specific way of life and specific behaviour that indigenous tribes all over the world adhere to. And there is no book, there is no doctrine. It can't possibly have been shared because there was no way for some of these tribes to connect in any way. Yet they all have the same patterns of existence. They all behave in the same ways. They're all deeply connected. And that for me was a download moment. It absolutely lit my soul up. I thought, this is truth. All my senses, clairsentience, claircognizance, I could feel it as truth for me. And that is what I've stood in ever since. So I started to learn more and more about the references to the plant kingdom, to animals, to plants, to the earth, to energy, to the cosmos, how everything's interconnected, and just basically having respect, respecting everything, respecting yourself, respecting the people, respecting the planet. And that seems to me like just good rules of life. Just basically don't be a dick. So I'm like, cool, I'll get down with the shamans. That feels like my kind of vibe. So I started to learn and develop, and I started to look at other cultures, and I started to look at the origins and, you know, where the first tribes would have been known to have come from. And I started to look at the Peruvian connection and Peru, because obviously I had a big connection there with Peru and the shamans of Peru, and that was really important to me. But I live in Wales, so Celtic shamanism and how the Celtic lineage came about. And I just found it incredibly fascinating. And I found that Siberia, so the first shamanic tribes were Siberia. Who knew that? And obviously you then have Native America, and you have all these amazing places and Aboriginal spaces in Australia. And you have these incredible people who live in such authentic, beautiful ways that, in my opinion, humans are meant to. And we've just deviated so much. Now, I'm not suggesting that we have to go back to these old ways, because we can't do that. We have to develop. Technology has to move forward. But we've moved forward at such a pace that we just can't adapt, and we haven't got the balance right. So if we can blend the old ways with the new ways, and we can have some kind of harmony, surely that is the best way for us to evolve. Because the way we're evolving now, you can see from people's brains and you can see from people's behaviours and how the world is going. We are not evolving in the right way, and we are going to implode. It's going to go wrong if we don't sort this shit out. So if we can shift that track and evolve in a slightly different, more harmonious way, based on the old ways and how they did it right, that's a winner for me, right? That makes so much sense. So I've spent a lot of time now. And I don't talk about this very often. So I know it looks like it's like, oh, she's getting down with the new fads. Like, mate, it's not. It's my whole life is based on this. So I've been learning with the School of Modern Soul Science for the last 4 years, based in Peru. Who knew that? I came across them in Cusco, which is where I stayed in Peru. Weird. It was a few years later. So I'm sort of deeply embedded there. I am connected to societies around shamanic practice that I'm a member of. I do lots of global work around shamanic practice. I've trained with an amazing lady in Australia who's taught me some incredible things, including the rites. So my rites of the Nusta Carpe and the Munai Ki. Just so many things that nobody would know about me. And it really lined up with my Reiki practice as well. And part of that led me to level up to master level and master teacher level, and expanded my energetic practice. And, you know, it all connects in together. It's all part of the same thing. So, yeah, I've had some brilliant experiences and some brilliant, incredible teachers along the way. And I still find more teachers, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can and pass on the bits that I know. But fundamentally, I truly believe that if we can get to grips with the medicine wheel concept, which I'm going to talk to you about, life will change for everybody, and the world will change. We need to just find the language that supports people to not think, that's just stupid and woo-woo. And it's not. It's real life, and it's really important. So that's my part to play, my path as the community shaman, the suburban shaman in the West over here, is to bridge that gap, is to find the right language, is to look at psychology and science and neuroscience and quantum physics and all of the cool stuff that resonate with people and the way they want to learn and speak here. Bring in the old ways, bring in the natural environment, bring in shamanic practice, and kind of combine them in a way that's easy to understand and easy to share. That is my path. That is 100% my path. You know, I've been working towards it forever since I was tiny, and I just kept a lot of it hidden because I wasn't sure where it fit, and I wasn't sure whether, you know, what kind of path I was on. Now I know, I'm just going to be sharing it fully, and it feels lovely to be able to do that authentically. And I'd like to be able to bring some of these practices into education, into health, into schools, you know. That would be incredible, wouldn't it, if that actually, you know, was a possibility in the future, that the mindset would shift enough to be able to embrace these things. And I think it's coming, because, you know, the culture is shifting around these things. Lots of science and lots of data around sound and vibration and frequency. You know, that wasn't heard of years ago. It was just all crazy stuff. So yeah, so that's kind of the place I'm at now. And I wrestled for a long time as well around the terminology and the word shaman, because it's such a sacred role, and it's such a sacred space to take up. And there's a lot of people who really will be pissy about that as well, who just, you absolutely cannot ever give yourself a title of a shaman. Oh my gosh, that's for specifically, there's a certain thing that you have to do, a certain path you have to follow, certain initiation, certain and it's really disrespectful, and it's cultural appropriation. And then I speak to the leaders that I know of and the people from different cultures and spaces that, like, dude, this wisdom's been lost. This is why the world's shit, because nobody listens to us, because this wisdom is not being passed on, especially in the West. So that's disparity there, that we're not allowed to do that, because that's wrong, that's not right. But then the wisdom doesn't get shared, and we need to share this wisdom. So shamanic practitioner is kind of sits comfortably with me, and it seems to be the best way to describe the work that I'm doing. But the philosophy is the same. You know, somebody who walks between worlds, somebody who can bridge the gaps, somebody who can go into the depths of the darkness, shine their light and pull out the wisdom for their community. That's literally what I do and what I've always done. So I'm just doing it in a slightly more well-rounded, whole and authentic way, rather than kind of like sneaky ninja in the background. So, and that's the whole concept. It is somebody who, if you go into certain spaces, you will have the medicine person who will use trance to go into a space where they connect spiritually, and they bring back the information that's needed to heal somebody. They work with plants, they'll work with animals, they'll work with very different correspondences and representations, and that is their role as a healer. Now, I'm not over here, although I do, my garden's incredible. I use a lot of plants, and yeah, I've got rocks everywhere, as you can see. I'm one of them. But that's not how I'm doing things in my practice. That's my personal practice. I work with a lot of these things. But really, for me, it's not about sitting and using my drum or my rattle and going into a trance and then doing some spooky stuff over somebody. It's about bringing the wisdom and the tools back from the depths of our psyche, and looking at Jungian psychology, soul retrieval. It's going into those dark spaces that are fragmented and that we've split in our minds and kept hidden. It's shining the light. It's bringing the understanding around how our brains and our bodies work. It's bringing some of the creative elements from shamanic practice, the elemental work, the connection with nature, the cycle of the wheel and the seasons. It's bringing all those things into a very Western framework and an easy way, and using digital media to get it out there. So, you know, that's my way. That's my practice. Is just slightly different to what somebody would expect. But I'm just really keen to do the authentic sharing and explaining exactly what it is and what I'm doing. So yeah, that's me. That is literally my authentic share. It's where it's all come from, and it's where it's got to now. So some really incredible bits of learning to come your way, and lots of tools, really, really important tools which balance the whole. So we use the medicine wheel framework, and the framework is around complete balance. And there's lots of ways in which I use that, and there's lots of information that I'm not going to go into. But just to give you the basics, we're talking about the whole, the wheel, the whole person, the whole environment, the whole space that you take up. We're talking about the seasons of the year. We're talking about the 4 cardinal directions. We're talking about 4 elements. There is a lot of there with the number 4 and 4 things to balance up. So that's the approach that I'm taking with the information that I'm sharing. And to give you a real basic of how it works in my frame, and how it works for a lot of the learning that I've done over the years, and how I build it into my practice. Everything has a connection. It has a connection to something in the natural environment, and it has a connection to something in your own personal space. And if those things aren't met in balance and worked on and acknowledged and understood, then there'll be disharmony somewhere, and something eventually will show up in your body as a physical complaint because there's an imbalance somewhere. And if you're only focusing on one thing, so if you have meds, or you have some counselling, or you have talking therapies, or you're doing your self-help books, which we're all addicted to, and then you might be neglecting something where the real root cause is, yeah? Or if you're hammering the gym 24/7 and you're doing the physical stuff, you're on a strict diet and your body is your temple, but you're not acknowledging any of the emotional stuff, you still might be in pain. Your body might still do things to you that you're not expecting, right? So the whole holistic approach is what we're going for. And we look at, to give you an example, because I'm not going to go on for too much longer, this is just a podcast, there's a whole load of learning there. But in terms of sharing medicine wheel stuff, we're looking at, say, the direction of the east. So the east is where everything begins, right? The sun rises from the east. We're looking at the direction of the east, and the element there is air, and it's all around the mental plane and swift thinking, and it's our intellect and it's our thoughts. So I do a lot of the mental health stuff, including Mindset Mojo, in that space of the medicine wheel. And then if we move across, you end up in the south. And the south is all around your soul, and it's igniting your fire, and it's around fire, just that. So the south, fire, it's shedding skin, it's serpent medicine. If you look at animal medicine, it's shedding the skin from the old to the new. It's lighting up your soul purpose and metamorphosizing into something new and creating new space. And it's your energetic field and your energetic space. Then you move along to the west, and the west is water, and it's the emotional realm, and it's how we balance and we get into flow. It's our creative expression, and it's just a beautiful place to be. What I have to work on the most, because I'm a fire normally for me, and I need to have a bit of water in my life. And then we move along to the north, and the north is connected with the earth, and it's all around grounding. It's around your physical body. It's around staying connected to your ancestors, to your past, to your people, to your community, and to the environment. So all of those things together, bit of a whistle-stop tour, but there's we can move around those spaces, and we can get that balance and that harmony and pull all the pieces of ourselves back in. And it's a beautiful way to do it. And just to finish off with a little story for you around how the whole ethos, really, the whole philosophy around shamanic practice and shamanism is based around the tree. So there's the tree. I've always been connected to trees, from a very early age as a child. Trees, the tree metaphor, and the tree of life. I literally, you can't see it there, I'll put a picture up, the tree of life. This wisdom from this tree of life, it's represented in cultures all around the world. And the theory is that this tree, we're all made up of the same thing, right? So this tree is just us as a whole concept. It's that whole unity. And the trunk of the tree splits off into branches. And you'll have a branch that will split off into the animal kingdom. You'll have a branch that will split off into the mineral kingdom. And a branch that will split off into the plant kingdom. And the branches of these trees then grow as we evolve, and everybody has a different representation, but everybody is considered to be people. Everybody is considered to be worthy of individual respect. Everyone has a resonance. Everyone has a vibrational frequency. Everyone has a purpose. So you have the metaphors of the plant kingdom, the plant people, which we would never do that in the West. They're not people, are they? Just stuff that we chop down so that we can build more buildings. So, you can see how this is a more holistic way of living. And you can also see that how as the branches grow, you may have the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom then will split off into primates and amphibians and then humans. When we get through the animal kingdom up the branches, we'll have, from the primate section, we'll have the monkeys, and that's how it goes through the different spaces. And that's how the branches of the same roots, that same trunk, we're all made of that same stuff. We branch off into different places. And the legend goes that the people, tiny little branch that branched off and completely went skew-if, the humans that originated from the animal kingdom, started to dismantle and destroy the whole, started to behave in ways that really weren't conducive to survival, and started to just go really, really crazy with their approaches, and really negative and really destructive. And the animal and the mineral kingdom came together and said, we got to sort these out. We're going to sort this out. Sorry, the plant and the mineral and the rest of the animals came together. Said, right, they're going to have to go. Get rid of them. Get rid of them, because they are going to damage all of us. They need to be gone. So we were going to be wiped out. And the legend says that the big tree, space, says, no, they are not. They are not. They're not innately bad. They are from us. They are from the whole. They are just lost. And it's our job to help them find themselves. And we need to bring them medicine to help them reclaim and understand the parts of themselves that are lost. And that's how this practice evolved, that you have plant medicine, you have wisdom from the animals and power animals. And if we can just get into that space where we can suspend judgment, and we can get rid of the labels of woo-woo and weird and crazy and unicorn stroker and tree hugger and quackery and if we can get into a space where we think, actually, let's look at this, because it might just do something, and we can look at the representations we have within our environment, within the planet, we can find the lost parts of ourselves and the broken parts of ourselves. So plant medicine and plant wisdom is really powerful, and I'll talk about that in detail. Totem animals, power animals. You know, I'm highly connected to wolf. I haven't got the right top on today, but my nickname's Mama Wolf. And that was before I even sort of got into shamanic practice, before I realised why I resonated with wolf and the way wolves, their leadership style and their family style. And now I know why, because my power animal and my constant companion is wolf, and that's how I live my life now. And we do some beautiful journey work within shamanic practice. And you use drumming, you know, the crazy, weird rattles and drums. There's a scientific backing for that. 4 beats per second ignites theta brainwave, which is a dream state where you can alter your state of consciousness and access your higher stuff, the stuff that your soul needs you to know. And you can pull in those representations, and you can work with different allies, and you can work with your imagination and your visualization and what your soul gives you as representation, and what your connections to different spaces bring to you. And it's really powerful, and it's really beautiful and lovely, and it's life-changing. So I'm interested to do some more work around that, and supporting people through journey work, and looking at your power animal, and looking at what kind of plant medicine lights you up, and looking at, you know, the crazy rocks. I've got loads knocking about here. You know, all the weirdos that have, there's a good one. The weirdos that have like rocks in the house. They're just rocks, they're just like rock from the garden. Vibrational medicine, people, once you look into it a bit deeper around vibrations and how things really work, then it opens your mind to a lot of new things. And I'll leave you with the thought that you only know what you know, right? And as human beings, we think that we know everything. We believe we know everything. We don't know shit. Right? I'm going to put that out there. We know what science can explain and what science can measure, right? That's what we understand. A lot of people, their frame of reference is, well, that doesn't exist and that's not real because science hasn't told me it's a provable concept, right? Most people, I can't touch it, it's not tangible, therefore it's not real. So I would challenge you to think that differently and reframe that, and think about electricity, for example. You can't touch that. You know it's going to be there when you turn your light switch off. Where's that coming from? How does that work? You need to start thinking a little bit differently, thinking a little bit bigger. And I have a massive respect for the scientific community, massive respect. But I'm really interested in quantum physics, the field, where quantum theory, where we don't know shit yet. We don't know anything. We really don't. So we think we're all that and we got it all sorted. We don't. We need to suspend our judgment on things and conceptualize and move into spaces where we can explore as individuals and not just wait for someone to tell us that's truth. Okay, I can do that now. Find your own truth, right? And I think with spaces like with energy, which is a huge topic, and I'm going to try and drip feed little bits of relevant information, but with energy, electromagnetic energy, your own field, the planet's field, is massive stuff at play that we know nothing about and we can't measure yet. Scientists can theorize about, and we're pretty much, I say we like I'm a quantum physicist, but as a species, we're pretty much confident that actually we're going to be able to prove that in another 50 years, another 100 years. We just can't yet. We don't have the technology to, but we're pretty certain that that's what must be the case. You know, just think about that as a concept for a second. And if you think about 100 years ago, somebody saying, I'm telling you now because I've seen it, people are going to be able to talk to each other from across the world without any wires, and that's going to happen. They would be personality disorder, probable lobotomy, certainly sectioned, probably medicated, insane, crazy, lunatic, eccentric. Food for thought, hey? How about the clairvoyance coming into play, and how about knowing that that's right, and I'm now going to perform experiments and I'm going to bring this into the physical and I'm going to make this happen, and oh look, here's a new invention, and now we have a telephone. And then a few years later, look, now we have a cordless telephone. And now look, I have conceptualized and used my visualization and my guidance to understand that this may be possible. We can't prove it yet. It's not happened yet. Everyone thinks I'm mad, but I think it's possible. And I am going to explore, I'm going to experiment, and I'm going to invent something new. And we love our new inventions, don't we? But we have zero respect for the fact that the person who invented them was completely insane by modern standards. They could conceptualize of something that wasn't provable and didn't exist in the here and now. So if we could all just reframe that a little bit and get into a space where we believe that anything is possible for us, and we are kind of the masters of our own destiny, and we are the alchemists of our own life, We don't need to be told what to do. We don't need to wait for somebody else to tell us that that's acceptable. We can dream, we can visualize, we can imagine, and we can bring things into our life that we never dreamed possible. If we can all start to move into that space a little bit more, can you imagine how much different your life would be? How much different the world would be? Keep thinking on that little thought, and I will see you next time.